Claire Bennett's open palm struck Nathan Cole across the face just as his hand closed around the elderly man's collar, and before the sound finished cracking through the restaurant, 6 men in dark suits rose from their tables. Nathan froze with his head turned sideways. A red mark surfaced beneath his cheekbone. The dining room went still around him, forks suspended, glasses untouched, a violinist holding her bow above a silent string. Claire stood between Nathan and the old man, one hand trembling beside her black apron. She curled her fingers before anyone could see. "Step away from him," she said. Her voice was low enough that Nathan had to lean forward to hear it. That only made the humiliation sharper. Behind Claire, the elderly man reached for the wooden cane Nathan had kicked beneath the table. Claire moved first. She bent, retrieved it, and placed it carefully across his knees. For half a second, her thumb rested on the worn silver band beneath its handle. The old man looked at her hand, then at her face. Something in his expression changed, not recognition, exactly, but the ache of a memory arriving before its name. Claire withdrew her hand too quickly. A tiny photograph had slipped from the pocket of her order book when she bent down. She covered it with her shoe before anyone noticed, except the old man. Nathan touched his cheek and gave a disbelieving laugh. "Do you have any idea who you just hit?" Claire kept herself between them. Her shoulders were straight, but her heel remained pinned over the photograph. "I know who you were about to hurt." Nathan's smile vanished. He turned toward the manager, who had rushed from the host's stand with panic already shining across his forehead. "Fire her. Call the police. And have that man removed." The order landed cleanly because Nathan was accustomed to being obeyed. The manager looked at Claire. Then at the private dining room where Nathan's company had reserved $40,000 in wine and service. His mouth tightened. "Claire," he whispered, "step away." She did not. The elderly man's fingers shook once around the cane. Claire noticed. She took the water glass from the table and placed it within his reach, turning the unchipped side toward him as if the room were not closing around them. He accepted it but did not drink. "You should listen to your manager," Nathan said. "Unless throwing away your job was part of the performance." Claire's eyes flicked toward the service station. Her tip envelope sat beneath the register, unopened. Beside it was a pharmacy receipt folded into quarters. She looked away before Nathan could follow her gaze. The choice cost her something visible now. Her breath caught once. Then steadied. "Sir," she said to the old man, "are you hurt?" Nathan stepped closer. "I was speaking." Claire did not turn. The manager reached for her elbow, not cruelly, but with the desperate grip of a man trying to save the restaurant from someone richer than its owner. Claire pulled free. That small movement shifted the room. The 6 suited men took one silent step forward. The old man raised 2 fingers, and they stopped immediately. Nathan finally noticed them. His confidence did not disappear, but it had to rearrange itself. "Who are you?" he asked the old man. The elderly man planted the cane against the marble floor. The silver band caught the amber light. He stood slowly, not because he was weak, but because every person in the room was already waiting for him. One of the suited men lowered his head. "Mr. Moretti." Claire's shoe still covered the fallen photograph. The old man looked down at it, then back at her. "Young lady," he said quietly, "your manager has asked you to leave." Claire swallowed. She could have walked away. She could have protected the job, the envelope, the receipt, the fragile life waiting beyond those doors. Instead, she moved beside the old man and offered him her arm. "Then I will leave," she said, "after I know you are safe." Claire's offer remained between them like a bridge neither had expected to cross. Mr. Moretti looked at her arm, then at the manager's hand still hovering near her shoulder. "No," he said. "You will not escort me out as though you caused this." His voice carried no threat, yet the manager stepped back. Claire lowered her arm. She did not look relieved. Her shoe remained over the fallen photograph. And Nathan noticed the motion. "She assaulted me," he said, louder now, directing the words toward the phones raised across the dining room. "Whatever performance this is, she is still going to jail." Mr. Moretti turned to Claire instead of answering him. "Did he touch you?" She shook her head. "He grabbed the gentleman behind me. I asked about you." Claire's fingers tightened around the edge of her apron. "No," it was the first answer she gave him that sounded guarded rather than calm. He studied her for one quiet beat, then removed his coat and placed it over the back of the chair beside her, blocking Nathan's view of the photograph. Claire glanced at him. The gesture was small, almost ordinary. That made it harder to refuse. She bent, slipped the photograph into her order book, and held it against her ribs. "Thank you," she said. "You are welcome," he replied, though his eyes lingered on the corner of the picture before she hid it. The manager cleared his throat. "Claire, the police are already on their way. Until this is resolved, I need your apron and your key card." The word struck more cleanly than Nathan's anger. Claire untied the apron without protest. When she placed the key card on the host stand, her tip envelope remained visible beneath the register. She reached for it, then stopped when Nathan laughed. Now she remembers what consequences cost. Claire withdrew her hand. Taking the envelope would look like fleeing with the night's cash before the police arrived. Leaving it meant walking out without the money folded beside the pharmacy receipt. Mr. Moretti saw the decision. He did not offer to pay her. He did not insult her by making the loss disappear. Instead, he lifted the envelope and handed it to the manager. "Seal it. Count it with a witness. Give it to her after the officers take statements." Claire's gaze shifted toward him. Trust did not enter her face. But suspicion made room for attention. "You do not have to manage this for me," she said. "No," he answered. "But I can keep other people from managing it against you." Nathan stepped between them. "You think your name changes what happened?" Mr. Moretti looked at him without raising his voice. "Her choice changed what happened. My name only made you notice." For the first time, Nathan had no immediate reply. Then he turned toward the nearest guest holding a phone. "Send me that video." The guest hesitated. Nathan gave him a business card. "My attorneys will need the full recording." The pressure moved again. Claire could see what would happen next: edited clips, public outrage, her face detached from everything that came before the slap. She looked at Mr. Moretti. "Your men stood up before anyone said your name." His expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "They are cautious. They frightened everyone. That was not my instruction. It was still your consequence." One of the suited men shifted, offended, but Mr. Moretti raised a hand. Claire had challenged the one person in the room willing to protect her. The distance between them returned, sharper because trust had almost begun. He picked up his cane. The silver band caught the light again. His thumb moved across a shallow notch in the metal, the same absent gesture Claire had made when she returned it. She noticed. So did he. Neither spoke of it. Sirens sounded beyond the front windows. The manager unlocked the doors. Mr. Moretti could have left through the private exit before questions began. Instead, he pulled out the chair beside his and sat down. "I will give my statement first," he said. Claire stared at him. "That may bring attention you do not want. So did your choice." He placed both hands over the cane and looked toward the approaching officers. "I am still here." Claire slowly set her order book on the table between them, the photograph hidden inside, but no longer pressed protectively to her chest. Then she made her own irreversible choice. Rather than stand apart as an employee awaiting judgment, she took the empty chair beside him and said, "Then we tell them exactly what happened. Together." The first officer asked Claire what happened, and Nathan answered before she could. She attacked me without warning. Claire did not look at him. She looked at the officer's body camera, then at the overturned chair, the wet stain spreading beneath Nathan's table, and the elderly man's cane resting against Mr. Moretti's knee. "May I show you the order of events?" she asked. The officer nodded once. Claire did not accuse Nathan. She walked him through the room instead. The wineglass had broken near the old man's chair, but the largest shards lay beneath Nathan's table, showing where it had been knocked from his hand. One leg of the chair pointed toward the aisle while the others remained aligned with the table, proof that someone had shoved it from behind. A pale crease marked Mr. Moretti's collar where Nathan's fingers had closed around the fabric. Claire noticed each detail because cleaning dining rooms had taught her how objects landed when people lied about moving them. She said none of that. She only pointed, waited, and let the officer see. Mr. Moretti watched her with a stillness that was no longer caution alone. "You remember everything," he said. Claire shook her head. "Only what people might need later." The answer changed something in his face. Before he could respond, Nathan stepped toward the guest who had recorded the scene. "You saw her hit me," he said. "Tell them." The guest lowered his phone. His eyes moved toward Claire's discarded apron, then toward Nathan's business card in his hand. "I saw the slap," he said carefully. "I did not see what happened before it." Nathan's first move had worked. He had not erased the truth, he had made everyone afraid to carry it. Claire could have pressed the guest. Instead, she noticed his teenage daughter gripping his sleeve beneath the table. "That is all right," Claire said. "Do not guess." The man looked at her with visible relief, followed immediately by shame. Mr. Moretti's gaze sharpened. She had protected a witness who had just failed to protect her. "Why would you make this easier for him?" he asked quietly. Claire folded her hands to hide the tremor returning to her fingers. "Because fear is not evidence." The second officer asked Mr. Moretti whether he wanted medical attention. He declined, then faltered when he stood. Claire reached for him and stopped halfway, remembering how quickly help could become humiliation. She waited. After a brief pause, he placed 2 fingers on her forearm. Permission, not dependence. She steadied him until his balance returned, then stepped away before the room could turn the gesture into spectacle. His hand remained suspended for a second after she moved. Nathan saw it. "This is convenient," he said. A famous man appears, and suddenly the waitress becomes a hero. Claire flinched at the word famous, not hero. Her eyes dropped to the order book on the table. The corner of the photograph had slipped into view. Mr. Moretti reached toward it, then stopped before touching it. On the exposed edge was a woman's hand resting beside a cane with a silver band. Claire closed the book gently. He looked at the notch beneath his own cane's handle. This time, his composure broke for half a breath. "Where did you get that photograph?" he asked. Claire held his gaze, but the trust they had built narrowed under the weight of the question. "It belonged to my mother." Nathan lifted his phone. "Good," he said. "Then perhaps the police should know she came here carrying a connection to you." The officer turned toward Claire. Mr. Moretti could have denied knowing anything and protected his distance. Instead, he placed his cane across the table beside her order book. "Her photograph is not evidence against her," he said. Nathan smiled and pressed send. Within seconds, every phone in the dining room began vibrating. The video of Claire's slap had gone public without the moments before it. The manager looked at the screen, then at Claire. "You cannot leave through the front," he whispered. Claire stared at the rising view count, then slid her order book toward Mr. Moretti. "Keep this safe." It was the first thing she had entrusted to him. Before he could answer, she turned to the officers and said, "I will walk out where everyone can see me. But he stays here, and nobody touches that book." The officers led Claire toward the front doors, but Mr. Moretti did not let them take the order book from his hands. It stays with me, he said, and the senior officer studied him before giving a reluctant nod. Claire paused beneath the chandelier. Outside, camera lights had already begun gathering against the glass. She could leave. Through the kitchen, preserve what little privacy remained, and let his name carry the burden she had created. Instead, she faced the front entrance. No statements for me, she told Mr. Moretti. Not unless they ask what happened inside. His fingers tightened around the book. They will ask more than that. Then do not answer for me. It was not gratitude. It was a boundary. He accepted it with a small dip of his chin. The doors opened, and voices rushed at her. Claire did not raise a hand to shield her face. She walked between the officers while reporters shouted that she had attacked a millionaire for the approval of a crime boss. One question made her step falter. How much did Moretti pay you? She stopped long enough to look back through the glass. Mr. Moretti stood alone at the table despite the men surrounding him, holding her worn order book with both hands as though it weighed more than anything else in the room. Claire turned forward and said only, I protected a man who was being hurt. The statement cost her the last safe version of the story. Nathan could no longer frame her as confused. He would have to frame her as connected. By the time the officers finished taking her formal statement in a quiet room behind the restaurant, the manager had suspended her without pay. Her tip envelope was sealed, but the pharmacy receipt remained beneath it, visible through the plastic evidence sleeve. Claire signed for neither. Keep it until the investigation is complete, she said. The manager looked at her as if she had chosen pride over survival. Perhaps she had. When she returned to the dining room, most of the guests were gone. Mr. Moretti sat beneath the dimmed lights with her order book before him, unopened. He had kept his promise so precisely that the photograph still protruded from the same page. You could have looked, Claire said. Yes. He slid the book toward her. I chose not to. She took it, but her hand stopped when she saw his cane laid beside it. The shallow notch beneath the silver band had been polished by years of touch. Mr. Moretti noticed her thumb hovering over the same place. He turned the cane so the mark faced away. The movement was protective, almost frightened. For the first time, Claire saw not the men, the name, or the control around him, but the care with which he guarded one damaged object. She closed the order book without checking the photograph. That was her answer to his restraint. Nathan's counterattack arrived before either could speak. The manager's phone rang. He listened, went pale, and placed it on the table between them. Nathan's attorneys had sent a preservation demand for every camera recording, employee file, and financial transaction involving Claire. They were also alleging that Mr. Moretti had arranged the confrontation to intimidate Nathan during a business dispute. Claire looked at the old man. Standing beside him now could damage her defense. Leaving him alone could validate the lie. You should go home, Mr. Moretti said. This is no longer your responsibility. Claire glanced at the pharmacy receipt sealed across the room, then removed her employee name tag and placed it beside the cane. The small click against the table closed the only life she could return to unchanged. He used my choice to reach you, she said. That makes what happens next partly mine. Mr. Moretti's composure slipped. His eyes moved to the name engraved on the tag, Claire Bennett, then to the hidden photograph inside her book. He opened his phone, cancelled the car waiting at the private entrance, and made no call to silence Nathan. Instead, he gave Claire a single address. Tomorrow morning, my attorney will review the footage before it is released. You may attend, but you will hear things about my life that cannot be unheard. Claire held the name tag in her palm. Returning meant stepping into the burden behind his protection. Refusing meant letting him defend her without knowing whether she could trust the man doing it. She slid the tag across the table to him. Keep that with the book tonight, she said. I will be there in the morning. By 9 the next morning, Claire sat across from Mr. Moretti in a quiet conference room while his attorney replayed the restaurant footage frame by frame. Nathan's hand caught the old man's collar. Claire crossed the room. The slap landed. Then 6 suited men stood. The attorney paused the image there. This is the version the public never saw. Claire looked at the frozen screen, not at Nathan's hand or her own raised palm, but at Mr. Moretti's face 1 second before she moved. He had not looked frightened. He had looked tired. "Release the full video," she said. The attorney turned to Mr. Moretti. He remained silent. Claire noticed her order book beside his cane, exactly where he had promised to keep it. Her name tag rested on top. Neither had been opened. "The footage clears you," the attorney said. "It also shows Mr. Moretti's men responding in a way that could invite questions neither of you wants." Claire glanced at the 6 figures rising in perfect unison. Releasing the truth would protect her job prospects and expose the private machinery surrounding him. Keeping it hidden would protect his life and leave her publicly condemned. Mr. Moretti reached for the flash drive. "Release it." Claire placed her hand over it first. He looked at her fingers, then at her face. "You do not owe me your silence," he said. "And you do not owe me your ruin." She removed her hand. "Then let me decide what I can live with." The attorney's phone vibrated before either could answer. Nathan had filed a civil complaint naming Claire and Mr. Moretti together, alleging assault, intimidation, and coordinated harassment. He had also offered the restaurant a settlement if it terminated Claire permanently and denied that he had touched the old man. His move was precise. If Claire released the footage, Mr. Moretti's world would be dragged into daylight. If she withheld it, Nathan's lie could become the only official story. Mr. Moretti pushed the flash drive toward her. "Your name. Your choice." Claire stared at it. Then she opened her order book and removed the photograph. For the first time, she placed it fully on the table. A younger woman stood beside the same cane, one hand resting near the silver band. Her face was turned away from the camera, but the bracelet at her wrist was unmistakable. Mr. Moretti's hand moved toward the image and stopped inches above it. The control left his posture so quietly that only Claire saw. His thumb pressed into the notch on the cane until the skin whitened. "She kept that?" he asked. Claire did not answer the question. Instead, she turned the photograph toward him. It was not permission to explain. It was permission to feel. He lowered his hand without touching it. Then he slid the flash drive back toward the attorney. "Do not release the footage." Claire looked up sharply. "That protects Nathan. For now. And destroys me." Mr. Moretti met her eyes. "Unless I give a public statement without hiding behind the video." His attorney stiffened. "That would connect you directly to the incident." Mr. Moretti picked up Claire's name tag and set it beside his cane. "I already am connected." The words changed the room. Until then, Claire had believed his protection came from power, habit, or debt to an old memory. Now she saw the cost he was choosing without asking her to carry it. He was willing to let people examine his life so she would not have to sacrifice hers. Claire took the flash drive from the attorney and closed her hand around it. "No statement alone," she said. "We speak together, or we say nothing." Mr. Moretti's gaze fell to the photograph between them. Claire pushed it closer, giving him something she had guarded longer than he knew. His hand finally touched the edge. The gesture was careful enough to break her composure. She looked away, pressing her lips together until her breathing steadied. Nathan's second filing arrived moments later. He had subpoenaed the original photograph, claiming it proved a prior relationship between Claire and Mr. Moretti. The private object that had built their trust was now the weapon aimed at it. Mr. Moretti reached to take the photograph back from the table, but Claire covered it with her palm. "No," she said. "He does not get to turn this into shame." She handed it to the attorney, making the one choice neither of them could reverse. "Enter it into the record. And put my name beside his." The attorney had barely secured the photograph when Nathan's next move arrived, a motion demanding immediate access to the restaurant's employee records, Claire's financial history, and every communication between her and Mr. Moretti. He cannot prove coordination, the attorney said. He does not need to, Claire replied. He only needs to make it look possible. Mr. Moretti watched her close the order book with both hands, careful not to bend the photograph now sealed inside evidence plastic. The choice she had made minutes earlier had protected the truth, but it had also opened her life to strangers. Her pharmacy payments. Her mother's name. Every late bill Nathan's attorneys could arrange into a story. Mr. Moretti reached for his phone. I can stop the restaurant from releasing anything. Claire caught his wrist before he made the call. The room went still. By frightening them, she asked. By reminding them of their obligations. They will not hear the difference. His hand remained beneath hers, motionless. Then he lowered the phone. It was the first time he surrendered a weapon because she asked him to. The concession brought them closer, and immediately cost them both. Without pressure from Moretti's people, the restaurant's owner accepted Nathan's settlement offer and terminated Claire permanently. The notice arrived by email before noon. Claire read it once, removed her employee access card from her wallet, and placed it beside the name tag Mr. Moretti had kept. Her fingers stayed on the plastic for one extra second. Then she pushed both across the table. That door is closed, she said. Mr. Moretti did not offer her money. He understood enough now to know that rescue could become another form of control. Instead, he slid the cane toward her. Hold this. Claire looked at him. Why? Because I need both hands. He stood and removed the silver band from beneath the handle. The movement was slow, almost reverent. Inside the narrow metal ring was a faded engraving, worn by decades of touch. He turned it away before she could read it, but not before she saw his thumb tremble. Claire steadied the cane. He steadied himself against the table. For one brief moment, neither pretended the object meant nothing. Then Nathan called the conference room directly. His voice came through the speaker, polished and calm. Release the footage, and I will withdraw the claim against the waitress. The attorney frowned. There will be conditions. 1, Nathan said. Moretti publicly admits his men intimidated witnesses. The offer divided the room exactly as intended. Claire could clear her name by forcing Mr. Moretti to accept blame for conduct he had not ordered. He could protect his reputation by leaving her to fight alone. Mr. Moretti reached toward the speaker. Claire stopped him again. Do not answer yet. He is offering you a way out. He is asking me to buy it with your name. Mr. Moretti looked at the termination notice beside her empty access card. Your name is already being taken from you. Claire's jaw tightened, but she did not look away. Then I know what it costs. She pressed the button herself. No deal. Nathan's silence lasted only a second. Then the next filing includes the woman in that photograph. Mr. Moretti's composure broke. He leaned toward the phone. Leave her out of this. Claire saw the fear he had hidden from cameras, police, and men who stood when he stood. Nathan heard it too. So she matters, he said, and ended the call. The victory lasted less than a breath. Claire had refused to sacrifice Mr. Moretti's dignity, and in doing so had exposed the one part of him Nathan could still wound. Mr. Moretti took the cane from her, but his grip missed the handle. Claire caught it before it struck the floor. He stared at her hand around the silver band. You should walk away from me, he said. Claire placed the cane firmly into his palm. You stood beside me when it damaged you. That does not make this safe. No, she gathered the termination notice, her sealed photograph, and the flash drive. It makes leaving a choice I would have to live with. The attorney's screen lit again. Nathan had filed an emergency request to question Claire's mother under oath, unaware she was dead. Mr. Moretti read the name and went pale. Clare saw it. This time, she did not ask what he knew. She made the harder decision. She signed authorization for the records herself, protecting him from being forced to surrender them while giving Nathan access to the last private pieces of her family. Mr. Moretti reached for the paper too. Late. Clare. She handed it to the attorney. You do not get to carry every cost alone. The signature closed the final escape between them. From that moment forward, protecting one another would also mean becoming the reason the other could be hurt. The authorization Clare signed gave Nathan exactly what he needed, not proof, but a story cruel enough to sound true. By afternoon, his attorneys had linked her mother's photograph, Mr. Moretti's cane, and Clare's unpaid bills into a public claim that she had staged the restaurant confrontation to force money from an aging man with a criminal reputation. The full video no longer mattered. Every act of trust between them had been rearranged into evidence of manipulation. Mr. Moretti read the filing without moving. Clare stood beside the conference table, watching her mother's name appear beneath words like scheme and coercion. When the attorney offered to seek an emergency seal, Nathan's response arrived first. He would withdraw every claim against Clare, restore her position at the restaurant, and remove her family records from the case under one condition: Mr. Moretti had to sign a sworn statement saying Clare had approached him before the incident and acted under his influence. The lie would save her by destroying him. Refusing it would preserve his name while leaving hers permanently tied to fraud. Prepare the statement, Mr. Moretti said. Clare turned toward him. No, you have already lost your job. That does not make your life payment for mine. He removed the silver band from his cane and placed it beside the photograph. Inside the ring, the engraving was now visible, EB, followed by a date Clare knew from the back of the picture. Her breath stopped, but he covered the letters with his palm before explanation could replace choice. Your mother trusted me once, he said. I failed to protect what that trust cost her. Clare's eyes filled, though no tear fell. He had finally given her enough to understand the shape of the wound, but not enough to escape the decision in front of them. She closed her hand around the unsigned statement. Then do not fail her by teaching me that love means becoming someone else's sacrifice. The attorney looked away. Mr. Moretti's control broke in the smallest way. His fingers reached for Clare's name tag, then stopped when he realized it no longer belonged to the life she had lost. You deserve your name back, he said. Not if yours disappears beneath it. Nathan called before they could choose. His voice came through the speaker with practiced sympathy. 5 minutes. After that, the records go public. Mr. Moretti picked up the pen. Clare took the flash drive containing the full footage and walked toward the window. Releasing it would clear her, expose his private security structure, and confirm every fear he had carried about allowing her into his world. Keeping it hidden would protect him and let Nathan define her forever. She inserted the drive into the attorney's laptop. Mr. Moretti stood so quickly his cane struck the floor. Clare, do not. She opened the release portal, then paused over the final command. I will not let you lie for me. And I will not let you inherit my consequences. They became mine when I sat beside you. She pressed send. The complete video went to the police, the court, and every outlet that had published Nathan's version. Clare's name began clearing within seconds. Mr. Moretti's did not. Images of his men rising filled every screen, followed by questions about intimidation, influence, and the life he had spent years containing. Clare had protected the truth and exposed the man who trusted her with his silence. Mr. Moretti looked at the screen, then at her. The hurt in his face was quieter than anger. You chose for both of us. Clare's hand fell from the keyboard. She had saved his dignity from a lie by taking away his right to choose the cost. I chose what was true. Truth without trust is another kind of power. The words landed harder than Nathan's accusations. Clare removed her mother's photograph from the evidence sleeve and offered it to him. He did not take it. Instead, He placed the silver band beside her hand and stepped back. Nathan's deadline expired. The lawsuit against Clare vanished, but investigators immediately requested Mr. Moretti's surrender for questioning. His men moved toward him. He raised one hand, stopping them, and walked to the door alone. Clare followed one step. "I am coming with you." He looked back at her, no longer as a stranger, no longer as someone he could protect, but as the person whose courage had become the deepest wound between them. "No," he said. "This time, you do not get to choose for me." Then he left her holding the photograph, the silver band, and the unbearable proof that saving someone could still mean losing them. Clare found Mr. Moretti in the courthouse corridor with no men beside him. The cane rested across his knees. Her mother's photograph remained in her hand, the silver band folded inside it. He looked at the picture before he looked at her. Clare did not apologize. An apology would have asked him to ease the cost she had chosen for him. Instead, she sat at the far end of the bench and placed the photograph between them. The distance was deliberate. So was the offering. Mr. Moretti reached for the silver band, then stopped when he saw the back of the photograph. A line in her mother's handwriting had been hidden beneath the frame for years: "Let her choose the life I could not." His fingers closed around the edge. Clare watched the hardness leave his face, not because the words explained the past, but because they explained every time he had tried to protect her by deciding for her. He turned the band in his palm. The initials inside matched the bracelet on her mother's wrist. He slid the silver ring back onto the cane, aligning the worn notch with the engraving. Then he placed the cane across both their knees. The object no longer belonged to his memory alone. Clare moved closer, just enough to steady it. No story was told. None was needed. His hand covered hers for one quiet second, then withdrew before forgiveness could become possession. Across the corridor, Nathan arrived with 2 attorneys and the confidence of a man expecting fear to finish what money had started. The prosecutor handed over the full restaurant footage, witness statements, and Nathan's messages offering payment for selective recordings. The same guest Clare had refused to pressure had submitted his original video. Her restraint had given him room to return with the truth. The manager had also provided Nathan's settlement demand and the threat tied to Clare's termination. No hidden document defeated him. His own choices did. Nathan looked at Clare as though she had arranged the room against him. She did not answer his stare. She helped Mr. Moretti stand. He hesitated before accepting her arm. This time, she waited. This time, he chose it. The prosecutor informed Nathan that the complaint against Clare would be dismissed and that his conduct was now under review for witness interference and false statements. Mr. Moretti could have watched him fall. Instead, he turned away first. "If the man on the floor had been your father," he said, "would winning still matter?" Nathan's face changed, but no one gave him the mercy of an answer. Outside the hearing room, Mr. Moretti's attorney offered Clare a public statement clearing her name and restoring her position through legal pressure. Clare declined the second part. She took the statement, folded it once, and handed it back. "Release the truth. Do not demand the job." Mr. Moretti looked at her. He understood the difference now. Protection preserved choice. Control replaced it. He removed Clare's old name tag from his pocket and set it in her palm. She closed her fingers around it, then placed the silver band beside it before returning both to him. He shook his head. Clare wrapped his hand around the objects. "Keep the part that taught you to ask." He opened his fingers and separated them. The band went back onto the cane. The name tag returned to Clare. Not rescue. Not debt. A boundary remade as trust. Mr. Moretti signed a statement accepting responsibility for his men's response without accepting Nathan's lie. Clare signed hers without hiding behind his name. Their choices cleared the case and cost them the illusion that either could save the other without consent. At the courthouse doors, reporters called Clare a hero. She stepped away from the microphones and adjusted Mr. Moretti's coat where it had folded beneath his collar. The same place Nathan had grabbed him. Mr. Moretti looked at her hand, then at the crowd. "Where will you go now?" he asked. Clare held the name tag against her palm. "Somewhere no one has to be afraid to tell the truth." He offered no job, no money, no promise. He only lifted the cane and waited beside her. Clare looked at the open steps, then at him. The conflict was over. The harder question remained: could they build a future without turning gratitude into obligation? She offered her arm once more. This time, he did not hesitate. 3 months later, Clare stood behind the counter of a small neighborhood restaurant where no table required a reservation and no guest was important enough to silence another. Her old name tag rested inside the register drawer, not on her uniform. She had chosen not to return to the life Nathan had taken from her, even after the restaurant offered her position back. Instead, she trained the staff to write every incident down before fear could rewrite it for them. When a nervous busboy dropped a tray beside a demanding customer, Clare did not rush to apologize for him. She helped him gather the broken glass, then waited until he found his own words. "I made a mistake," he said. "But you cannot speak to me that way." The customer stared at Clare, expecting correction. She only placed an unchipped water glass within his reach and said, "He has answered you." Across the room, Mr. Moretti sat at the same corner table every first Tuesday of the month. No suited men stood behind him now. One waited outside, at his request, far enough away that the room could breathe. His coat hung over the empty chair beside him, and his cane rested against the table. The silver band still carried the worn notch beneath his thumb, but he no longer covered it when Clare approached. She poured his coffee and turned the cup so the handle faced his stronger hand. "Too cold?" she asked. He lifted it, tasted it, and shook his head. Clare noticed the folded newspaper beside his plate. Nathan's company had lost 2 major contracts after the full footage and witness messages became public. The criminal review continued, but Clare did not open the article. Nathan's ending belonged to the choices he had made. It no longer belonged to her. Mr. Moretti pushed a small envelope across the table. Clare did not touch it. "What is it?" "Not money." He waited until she chose to open it. Inside was a copy of her mother's photograph, newly framed, with the handwritten line preserved on the back. The original remained in Clare's order book at home. Below the copy, Mr. Moretti had placed a blank card. No explanation. No claim. Clare looked at him. He took a pen from his pocket and set it beside the card. "You decide what belongs there." Months earlier, he would have filled the silence for her. Clare would have guarded the photograph against him. Now she slid the card back across the table. "Leave it blank." Mr. Moretti held her gaze, then nodded. Some losses did not need better words. Some connections survived because no one tried to own their meaning. Near the entrance, the busboy noticed an elderly customer struggling with a cane while another guest brushed past without looking. He left his station, steadied the chair, and waited until the man accepted his arm. Clare watched from behind the counter but did not intervene. The choice was his. Mr. Moretti saw it too. His fingers loosened around the silver band. "You taught him that," he said. Clare shook her head. He watched. The answer drew the faintest smile from him. When the dinner rush began, Clare returned to work. Mr. Moretti folded his coat over the empty chair, not to hide anything this time, but to save the seat beside him. Clare noticed and kept moving. She had customers waiting, a staff learning to stand without cruelty, and a life that no longer depended on being rescued. At the far end of the room, a wealthy man grabbed the busboy's wrist after a spilled drink. Before Clare could move, Mr. Moretti rose slowly from his chair. The busboy pulled his hand free and stood straight. Clare stopped beside him, her palm open but lowered. No slap came. It was no longer needed. Around them, chairs shifted. One by one, people stood, not because they feared a powerful name, but because someone quiet had once shown them how. Mr. Moretti looked at Clare across the room. She looked back. Between them, the cane's silver band caught the warm light, while the empty chair remained waiting beside his table.